The morning they gave me Pen 7, the garrison adjutant told me 3 things. First, the pack inside had hospitalized 2 handlers and broken the collarbone of the 3rd. Second, Commander Vessier had already signed the destruction order and was only holding it pending one final assessment. Third, I was the assessment. He said it like he was doing me a favor, like I should be grateful for the chance. I'd been reassigned out of the Selene Forward Medical Course 6 weeks earlier. Nerve scarring in both hands, not bad enough to discharge me, bad enough to make suture work unreliable. Someone in garrison logistics had looked at my file, seen the secondary notation about field animal handling on Dashran's Edge 4 years back, and decided that made me useful here. I didn't argue. You stop arguing with the paperwork after a while. Pen 7 was at the far end of Garrison Kesh's containment wing, past the supply cages and the quarantine blocks, in a low prefab building that smelled of iron and damp concrete. The garrison's senior handler, a stocky woman named Driva Oln, met me at the outer door. She had a clipboard and the expression of someone who had already written me off. Multi-species pack, she said. Acquired during the Keth corridor sweep. 3 karate, 2 dravan, 1 juvenile veth bear. They were being transported to the Hereth breeding program. Transport escort got hit. The pack got loose in the wreckage for 11 days before we recovered them. She paused. They were not the same animals afterward. I looked through the reinforced observation window. The pen was large, maybe 30 meters across, high ceilings, a sleeping platform along the back wall, enrichment structures the animals had largely destroyed. I could see 2 of the Dravan hounds near the far wall, obsidian-scaled, lean as wire, watching the window with the flat attention of things that had learned that windows meant people and people meant decisions made about them. One of the karate was pacing a slow oval near the center. Slate gray, 6-legged, the size of a draft animal, its yellow eyes tracking something I couldn't see. The veth bear was on the sleeping platform, copper-furred, maybe 2/3 grown, its head resting on its forepaws but its eyes open. I didn't see the 3rd karate until I looked up. It was on the overhead gantry the enrichment team had installed. Watching down. Armor. I said. Doesn't help, Driva Oln said. The second handler wore full articulated plating. They went through the shoulder joint. She handed me the clipboard. Assessment form. You fill it out if you can. What we are mostly hoping you'll do is confirm the destruction order so the commander can move forward. I read the form. I set the clipboard on the shelf beside the window. Open it, I said. She looked at me the way people look at someone who has just said something they cannot quite believe they heard. You want me to open the pen? Yes.
No armor.
No. There was a long pause. Behind us, 2 garrison soldiers who had apparently come to watch were very still. This is your assessment, she said. This is how I work, I said. Open it. She opened it. The lock disengaged with a sound like a held breath releasing. The door swung inward 20 centimeters and stopped. I pushed it the rest of the way and stepped through, and I heard it close behind me. The pen smelled of the pack. Musk and something sharper underneath, mineral and old. The karate in the center stopped pacing. The 2 dravan near the wall lifted their heads. On the platform, the veth bear raised its muzzle. I walked to approximately the middle of the pen, far enough from the door that closing the distance to it would require crossing past at least 2 of them. Then I sat down on the floor, not crouching, not kneeling with 1 foot ready to push off, sitting, cross-legged, hands resting open on my knees, back not quite straight because my back hasn't been quite straight since Dashran's Edge. I looked at the middle distance, not at any of them directly, not away from them in a way that would read as submission or fear. The middle distance, the way you look when you are simply present somewhere and not performing anything. The nearest Dravan hound moved first. It came in a low fast arc around my left side, not charging, circling, getting my scent from multiple angles. It passed close enough that I could hear its breath. I didn't move. It completed the circle and stopped 3 meters in front of me, needle-fanged muzzle lowered, watching. The second Dravan crossed from the far wall. Same arc, opposite direction. They bracketed me and watched. From the gantry above came a sound like a large cable under tension, the karate up there shifting its weight. I didn't look up. The central karate, the one that had been pacing, walked toward me in a straight line. 6 legs, that rolling heavy gait, each step deliberate. It stopped 2 meters away. At this distance it was enormous, its shoulder above my sitting head height, its yellow eyes level with my face when it lowered its head to look at me. I said nothing. I kept my hands open on my knees. My pulse was doing something complicated that I was choosing not to pay attention to. The karate exhaled. A long slow push of breath that stirred my hair. Then it sat down. Not threatening. Not positioning. It simply sat, folded its front two legs beneath it, and regarded me with the patient attention of something very old and very certain of its own nature. Something shifted in the room after that. The Dravan hounds settled onto their haunches simultaneously. The one on the platform, the Veth bear, made a low sound, not a growl, something shorter and rounder than a growl, and climbed down from the platform. It walked across the pen in that loose-shouldered way juvenile Veth bears have, half cub still in its movement, and stopped beside me and sniffed my ear. Then it sat beside me with its flank against my shoulder, and its weight leaning in the way that means it has decided you are load-bearing. The third karate came down from the gantry by some route I didn't watch, only heard. It arrived behind me and lay down, and I felt the warmth of it through my jacket. I sat there. The pack was around me. The pen was quiet. Through the observation window I could see Driva Oelen's face, and behind her the two soldiers, and their expressions were all the same, the particular stillness of people watching something that has broken their working model of how the world operates. I sat with the pack for another 40 minutes. The Veth bear fell asleep against my shoulder. The nearest karate allowed me to rest my scarred hand on its head, not because I asked, but because it moved its head under my hand. The Dravan hounds remained alert but not tense, watchful the way you are watchful in your own territory when nothing threatens it. When I stood to leave, the Veth bear made that sound again, the short round sound. I said, "Later," and walked to the door. The problem arrived 8 days later in the form of Supply Convoy Coordinator Thale Dunn. He was a compact man with the manner of someone who had spent his career in logistics and had developed a belief that efficiency was a moral quality. He arrived at Garrison cashed with transfer papers for 6 animals, the pack, bound for the Hereth breeding compound. He had a convoy, a schedule, and no patience for what he called containment theatre. I was present because Commander Vessier had asked me to be. She had, in the 8 days since my assessment, assigned me formally to Pen 7 and quietly shelved the destruction order. She was a practical woman. She understood what she had seen through the observation window even if she couldn't account for it. Thale Dunn reviewed the transfer papers, reviewed the convoy transport specifications, reviewed the garrison's handling records, and announced that he would need to walk the animals from the pen to the transport vehicles personally, to verify their condition and confirm they were capable of compliant loading. "They're not compliant animals," I said. "All animals are compliant under appropriate handling protocols," he said, not looking up from his papers. I looked at Commander Vessier. She looked at me. She said to Thale Dunn, "I'd recommend you defer to Garrison Specialist Morn on the handling approach." Specialist Morn's approach, Thale Dunn said, appears to be sitting on the floor. I have a schedule. He took the release key from the adjutant station without asking. He walked to the pen door. He got it open 8 centimeters. What came through 8 centimeters of open door was the foreleg of the larger karate, the one that had first sat with me, moving with a speed and precision that I had clocked in my head as theoretically possible but had not seen demonstrated. It caught Thale Dunn's shoulder, spun him, and dropped him against the corridor wall. Not a killing blow. They are very exact about that distinction, karate, when they choose to be. It was the blow that meant, "You don't come in here." The door held. Thale Dunn was on the floor. His 2 logistics aides were pressed flat against the far wall, making no sound. I walked past all of them to the door. I put my hand flat against it. "Easy," I said. The pressure from the other side released. I heard them settle. I pulled the door closed and locked it and turned around. Thale Dunn was being helped upright by one of his aides. His face had the color and expression of a man who has just been corrected by the universe on a point he felt strongly about. His shoulder would be badly bruised. His filing of incident reports would be extensive. His transfer order would be quietly buried by Commander Vessier, who was already drafting the counter-documentation. He looked at me from the floor with the particular fury of a man who understands he is not going to win this. "How?" he said. Not a question about what I had done. A question about what I was. I thought about that. About 11 days in wreckage. About what you become when you are damaged enough and then left alone long enough and then damaged again. About the particular shape of a thing that has learned to be dangerous because the world required it and learned to be still because nothing else was left. They recognized something, I said. He waited for more. I didn't have more. Not in language that would mean anything to a man with a schedule. Commander Vessier asked me that evening what I thought should happen to the pack, whether they could be integrated into garrison operations, whether transport was eventually viable, whether Hereth was still the right destination. I was watching them through the observation window. The Veth Bear was on the sleeping platform. The Karate I thought of as the senior one was below the platform, one eye open. The Dravan hounds were loose and moving, that fluid patrol they did in the evening hours. Leave them here, I said. That's not standard protocol for. Leave them here, I said again. Quietly. I'll sort out the paperwork. She was quiet for a moment. You're going to tell me they're an asset, she said. They are an asset. You're going to tell me you can work with them. I can work with them. Through the window, the senior Karate turned its head and looked at the glass. At me. The yellow eyes were very clear, very steady, the gaze of something that has decided. All right, Commander Vessier said. I stayed at the window a while longer after she left. The pack moved in the pen with the ease of animals in their own territory, unhurried, certain. The Veth Bear made its short round sound in its sleep. I put my scarred hand flat against the glass. Later, I said. From inside, the senior Karate set its great head down on its forepaws and closed its eyes.